Hey, what up, good people? This is the Spiritual Studd.
And I am MT, baby.
And we want to welcome you to our latest episode of Just My Opinion, which is, as you know, doing a series on sex. And today we're going to dig deep into the world of BDSM. And,
Yeah, she said it, BDSM.
BDSM. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Y'all, you want me to go first?
She gonna take it.
Okay. So what had happened was, okay, let me back up to why we're talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're during the sex series, and
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? We need to talk about the nitty to the gritty and
Right.
just get to the point. Because I think we've been tiptoeing
Through the tulip. Yeah,
and
you
we
know,
need to
I don't know nothing
stomp.
about that.
We need to stomp through some stuff. So
Okay.
this is what had happened. Imagine this. I'm in my 20s, right? I'm a Scorpio. We do what we do. We are sexual, what's the good word for it? Beasts. So anyway, I'm in my 20s. One of my roommates is an exotic dancer. And so, and then I used to hang out at the strip clubs. Ain't no shame in my game. That was like my favorite thing to do when I was in my 20s is I take my little tip money and go down there and, you know. So what had happened was my roommate and I, we would talk all the time about people who had fetishes and kinks and stuff like that. And she was like, you know what? I got this guy. She had this guy who liked for women to throw fruit at him. Like not just, like throw fruit at him. Like that was his thing. That was his kink, his fetish or whatever. And she got paid for it. Like
Just
he would come
fruit.
just throwing fruit. She would get picked up by this guy who he would have a hotel room. He'd have a basket full of fruit. He'd strip down and then she'd throw the fruit at him and then she'd get paid and go home. I know because I live with her, so we discuss this stuff all the time. And so as I kind of got, if you've ever been friends with exotic dancers, you know that they get, or any type of sex workers, and I'm not saying that demeaningly, I'm saying that there is some people out there and you get into this world of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that was appealing to me was the whole like BDSM lifestyle. And so you know me, I'm good for that good research. Always have been. So I started looking into it because I'm like, tell me more. What's this about? So what happened was I met this lady who was into the lifestyle. And let's call her Candy, shall we? To protect the innocent. Right. So I met this young lady and she was telling me about she was a sex worker, she was a dominatrix. And so I was like, oh, cool, tell me more about what you do. So she had this house. And her whole house was made like a dungeon. Have you ever seen like the sex dungeons where they have like chains on the wall and all this kind of stuff? And I was like, cool. I never been to the house, but she told me about the house. And she told me that she had, clients and that was how she made a living. And when she had money, she would buy new equipment for, tying people up and whipping people and stuff like that. But she had a mainly white male clientele. This is a black woman, but she had a mainly, that was her thing. So that was interesting. And so when I got dabbled into more, as the internet started to kind of ramp up, people was in chat rooms and stuff like that, I was really into that. And so I found a BDSM chat room. And so I made a profile and I was like, in that lifestyle, you got dominant, submissives, and switches. So the dominant is the person that's the aggressor, tells the sub what to do. The subs, they do what the dominant says to do. And then you got people who switch, so they do either one. So I went on there because I've always been sexually dominant, mostly. And so I was like, I'm a dom. I'm a top. What's up? Like, then I just started browsing. But I realized that there wasn't that many black lesbians into it. And so that was like, there wasn't that many fish in that sea. You know what I'm saying? And some of them fish wasn't right. There was some barracudas up in there, and I was like, but it was interesting. I met a young lady on that site, which shall remain nameless. And I did there's this thing called sapiosexual. It means that basically you get turned on by intelligent thought. And because I am sapiosexual, this young lady and I, for months, I even forgot that we had done this. For months, we would type erotic stories back and forth to each other.
Oh.
And that was so cool. And I was the dominant, she was the submissive. And so we would do sex scenes, but in writing it out in this forum.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a forum for that in this website.
Wow.
Where you can you type, well, I say do this, and then she would type, well, So I thought that was kind of cool. It was kind of fun. It was interesting.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
It was very cool. Yeah. It was very cool. And I met a couple other people, but it didn't turn out to be nothing. Mm-hmm. I have had a submissive, and we ain't gonna dabble into that too much. It didn't last that long. Because this is the thing about anything that is people are serious about culturally, it's a big deal. This is not, there are people who dabble like I did, but for people who are in the lifestyle, it's all, you have to be all about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some people do it for fun, for pleasure, for kink, whatever. Mm-hmm. But some people do it because this is just their life.
Yeah.
And those people that dominate the areas of that culture, it's serious. Like I met this one young lady who was a sub. I thought she was going to be my sub. Then I realized that ain't going to work for me, baby. So she's a beautiful young lady. And her sub had left her. Thank you. Her dom had left her. But the problem was for years she had been with the same dom. Mm-hmm. And they told her what to do every piece of the day. Like they told her when to eat breakfast, what to eat for breakfast, what she could wear. It wasn't just sex, it was the lifestyle of dominance. Yeah. So that meant that, when her dom left her, which you should never leave somebody. Usually you're contracted. And in the contract, if you're going to leave, you have to do ABC steps to leave. Yeah. So that you don't leave the people traumatized, because this child was traumatized. Yeah. Because she didn't know when to get up, when to eat, what to do anymore because she had spent so many years with a dom that told her what to do. And so when I met her on something, I don't even remember what it was, and she's like, I'm looking for a dom, and I'm like, ooh, she's cute. Maybe we can work this out. And then she was like, that name just appeals to me. You know what I mean? Call me Dom. AG, aggressive. Anyway, so then I realized, I was like, baby, I can't be telling what you do all day. Nobody got time for that. I just thought it was just gonna be a sex thing. You know what I mean? I thought, you want me to dominate you? And she's like, no, I don't, So we had a few little phone conversations, and that was about it. Because I was like, I ain't got time for this. It was cute for a minute, but no. I got a life. I got things. I got to go job. I can't be looking at my phone waiting on you to text me talking about what we eating for lunch. Girl, if you don't make a sandwich and leave me alone. So I realized that I could not be a part of that lifestyle seriously. Mm-hmm. Because either if you're, and I don't think I could ever be a sub. I don't even think I could do that. You know what I'm saying? Submit myself to someone. And of course, being black, yeah, and the history of the flogging and the beating and all that, I just don't, I could be dominant. That I am. But yeah, I can't, well, I don't really think I could do it.
No. I know I can't. I'm not going to play.
That's what I'm saying.
I do it.
I'm trying to really think, could I do it? I don't think I want to do that. I might have to put more thought into it. Now that I'm older and I'm not really, I don't do this stuff no more. You know what I'm saying? That was part of the past. So I I'm just like, I just don't think, it doesn't hold the same interest and appeal that it did when I was younger. When I was younger, all this stuff was like, ooh, new and exciting, and meeting dominatrix and stuff. It sounds all extra fun, but then when you get into the weeds of it, you're like,
that's a lot of weeds too.
That's a lot of weeds.
That's a lot of weeds. That's a big old field.
Yeah, it is.
Big old field. Yeah. I did a little research and they were like, let's get something straight. This was before 50 Shades came out.
Oh yeah.
It was like 50 Shades is about to come out and we need to get this straight right now. This is not how it is.
Right.
And they just went on to tell, about how subs really don't ever really lose control. And they didn't want that to be a thing that people thought. And it was interesting to me. But again, with BDSM, there's a lot of different things, and one of them is just the dominance and the submission. But again, they had other stuff like bondage and discipline.
Yeah,
that's the.
See, I even wrapped this up. You should never do this. This is leather. You're not supposed to do this, but I ain't planning on using it no more, so it don't matter.
Tickle. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway. So, that part of it is sadism and masochism, that's that other part of it. So you have to be really straight on what you're doing. You can't just go in there like, ooh, this is fun. Let me try. This looks fun. You better do your research.
Right.
Before you step off into something you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
And get the shock of your life.
Literally. Literally.
But I was reading something because, I know you had wanted me to do the spiritual side of stuff. So I was reading I just looked up sex and spirituality just to see what pop up, and a paper popped up. I don't know if she was trying to get a doctorate or whatever, but she was coming from a Christian point of view. And of course, in Christianity, sex is reserved for the marriage bed between one man and one woman. However, this thing that she said really kind of perturbed me. She said that sex outside of marriage is destructive and dangerous. Now, for those of us in this community, we have just, recently been able to get married. So for all those people who were in committed relationships, all those years you were having destructive sex, because you weren't married and it's not a man and a woman, For that mindset is destructive because you can't tell people what their feelings are. This is your belief. But what she wrote, we all know. No, we don't all know that.
Right.
You might think that, but we don't all know that. Because I can't say. I've been in my relationship for umpteen years and only been married for 5 of those umpteen years. So, you going to tell me all the prior years that we were together, it was destructive and dangerous? I just don't feel that way. I don't have those feelings. So when you bring anything outside of what they consider the norm, they're going to make you feel a certain way about it.
Right.
And they're going to always bring this, don't you know that these certain people are going to hell? You will not have part of God's heaven and all this other stuff that they say. But sex is not always between married people. Sex is sometimes just sex. And sometimes in that way, it can be destructive. But it can also be, hey, just having a good time. If what's vital in these instances, especially in BDSM, is communication.
Yes.
The one thing that I did read is that they talk before.
Yes.
They get clarity on what we're doing, how we're doing it, safe words, all this stuff. You got to have that first before you go into it. Then after it, there's aftercare. Where they sit and they talk about what happened. How did you feel? Tell me a man and a woman out there have sex, married. They gonna talk, baby. How was that? Right. You probably you probably had that conversation like when you first get together.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that was great, boo. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, rubbing all on each other. Give me about a year within.
Right. And
behind the sleep.
Specific. Like, did you like when I did that?
Right.
Or how did you feel about this? You know.
And a lot of times people who are, I ain't gonna say, I can't generalize, but let me put it like this. Those of you who are so biblically literate, you don't even talk about what makes you feel good. Most of you will lay there and take it and not say anything. You know, and that's why you have all these books written for the Christian wife. Because they don't feel like they can express what they want. Right. They feel like they're just a receptacle. And I don't have feelings. You know, I can't express my feelings. That's why y'all got those books. Because these are the things that are being taught to you. Sex can be destructive. Indeed, it can. When you look at sex trafficking, child molestation, those kinds of things, rape. But that's not even exactly. That's not even sex. It's power. So for her to even put that in there, sees what shows her mindset. Because it's not about sex. Right. It is. None of that. It's about power. It's about power. I can put you out there. That's what I can do. That's what sex trafficking is. I'm gonna make money putting you out there. Now the person that's being trafficked. It becomes about sex, but it's about their body and the loss of power over their own body. That's right. So I just, it just irked me so bad. It just irks me when they get in these powerful. They always want to talk about what is dangerous, and you know what else? I'm about to get off topic. Okay, for a minute, squirrel. Did you see the conversion therapy? Meeting of the city council. Did you see that man up there talking about this has just become a whole thing for a villain, a catch-all villain?
I didn't see that
for the LGBT agenda. Once again,
that agenda.
What agenda? Can somebody please
email me?
Right. Drop a comment. Tell us what is the agenda, because I've been in this community for a long time and I don't have an agenda. I don't know what the agenda is, except what? We want rights? Equality. Is that the agenda? Right. Oh. Be treated fairly. Oh, that's the agenda? I think that's what they think. I don't know. God. Yes. I don't know. It shouldn't surprise me. Right. Anyway, moving on. Okay. I just had to. That just came. I just got so mad. Right. Go ahead. Okay, so I would like to get your thoughts on something, but I want to touch on, which I've said before. Now, I don't expect everybody to believe like I believe. I don't. It's taken me a long time to get where I am in my belief system. And I think sometimes it's still evolving. But when I look at sex and I look at the way we were created and the freedom within ourselves, our bodies, our world, our universe, I look at how we were created as sexual beings. And, realizing that God gave us, sexual parts, anatomy, and sexual hormones, and all of this, it's really hard for me to think that we were given sex just for the purpose of procreation. Because I look at those people in the Bible, like Solomon, and people who had multiple wives. And then I also compare that to the history, especially the African history of women
who were in authority,
Mm-hmm.
who had maybe multiple husbands.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that part of history has been stolen away from us. They don't want people to know that women were powerful,
Mm-hmm.
and that women also did the same things that those men did,
Mm-hmm.
and that there were tribal leaders and there were Egyptian women leaders who ruled, Queen of Sheba, Cleopatra, who ruled, and they were sexually free within their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And they were rulers who were given favoritism. You know what I mean? And so, like, I look at the way the Bible and the scripture was written about Solomon, and it talks about the love he had for this woman. But Solomon had a love for a lot of women.
He was skipping over mountains
You
for
know
a whole lot of spices. Let me tell you.
He was kind of a little player. You know what I'm saying? But it also says that God granted Solomon favor because that wasn't all he was.
Mm-hmm.
He was wise.
Right.
It said he ruled fairly.
Right.
People adored him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe God gave him favor because he was free. I'm just throwing this out there because anybody else gonna talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there was favor upon female tribal leaders and female people too that you'll never even hear or know about. We did a show some while back about the stolen histories, of our culture, LGBT culture, and how people don't want people to know that we were rulers, two-spirit, all of this kind of stuff, So I just want to open your minds to some things. And like I said, I'd like to get your perspective on Solomon and, and once again, we are sexual beings. We have hormones. We have sex parts. We have stuff. Even if you didn't have any genitalia, you'd still be a sexual being. You're still going to have testosterone. You're still going to have estrogen. You're still going to have, now I won't remember what it is. The drugs that make you feel good. Serotonin. Well, these are the drugs that the body naturally makes.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you have sexual release, you're still going to have those things within your system, whether you had a penis or a vagina. You're still going to have those things. So, dopamine, that's what I was looking for. Yeah. You know what I mean? Some of y'all trying to get lifted in order to have these extra dopamine and extra serotonin and stuff like that. And some people use sex. It's still a drug. Right. It's still a drug.
Because it's a high.
Because it's a high. Exactly.
You reach a high and you still keep trying to go get back to that same high and you never do. That initial high is that initial high.
Right.
You're never going to get that same feeling.
And last thing, this is just my last thing. But once again, we were created as we are with desires, with sexual organs, with sexual drugs in our body that create an atmosphere for sex. And I personally don't believe that that is the only reason we were created and have this is just solely for the purpose of procreation. I think that's ridiculous to think of. Yeah. And even in the natural world that is not human, when you look at animals and other creatures, sometimes they're having sex and it's not for procreation either. Don't nobody want to talk about that, but that happens too. Google it. Ooh. So
nice things.
Right. So what do you think about Solomon?
Solomon was first of all, Solomon asked for wisdom, which is why God granted him favor because he did not ask for money. So there you go. But I was listening to Song of Solomon on the way. Okay. And let me tell you, it's a bunch of romantic spews. Oh, my lover. Oh, my beauty, your eyes are like doves, and your temples are like some, and I am dark. Don't laugh at me because I am dark. The sun has kissed me. Oh, da, da, da. Oh, your lips are like wine. Come and eat your fruit. I have eaten my fruit. I mean, it's like
wow,
biblical porn. But it's a lot of my lover And I kept waiting for my husband,
Hmm.
and I kept hearing my lover. Then all of a sudden they switched over to the bride behind the veil, and my husband, she never say my husband, but anyway, the groom, I guess, maybe, I don't know, but Solomon had a lot of wives and a lot of concubines. And even in Song of Solomon, he said, even with all the concubines and all the wives, all of them look upon you. You are the one. So even with all of that sex up in his face, there was one that he really, really loved. Now the rest of that, he might get horny.
Yeah.
And go and, I want this one today. I want that one today. But
aren't you curious to know what was going on with all them
I was about to say, to me, you could be in a concubine for years and not get touched. So what were they doing? The desires did not go away because Solomon wasn't touching them. Because I'm gonna tell you like this, and my wife and I had this conversation. Once you have sex, it's hard to stop.
Yeah, it is.
And then you try to tell your kid after they had sex, you better not do it again. Ha! What? Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. That's not gonna work out. So what? They just brought them on. What were they doing? That's a lot. That's hundreds.
Yeah.
He couldn't go through all them.
No, not even if he wanted to.
No. So I'm gonna tell you this now. He would probably get them like the first time they come in to the concubine. Then after that, get in line.
I see you in about 2 years.
Especially after the wives. You gotta wait after the wives. So
how old was he when he died?
I'm just saying. He had a lot going on.
That's a lot.
And so I can believe that there were things that the Bible don't talk about going on in those concubines with the concubines with each other. Because the eunuchs couldn't do nothing for them.
No, and they had to live together.
Yep. So I'm pretty sure them girls was, I'm just going to say, yeah. That's my imagination though. I'm not trying to write a new scripture in the Bible, but I'm just saying.
But it's a curious thing, isn't it?
It's a thing that,
I'd even dare to say the wives, because as far as I understand, the concubines, there was a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And so it was the wives, the concubines, the servants.
Yeah.
And if you were female, then you were kind of grouped together as servants who take care of the concubines, and the help concubines and the servants help take care of the wives. And so what does take care mean?
Hey.
You know what I mean? Because they bathed each other. They had communal baths.
Right. So let's be real. Let's be real now. Y'all messed around with the king. And now the king is like, this one right here, and the rest of y'all 500,
right?
Y'all got needs and wants and desires.
That's a lot.
Did they die? No, they did not die. They did not die. Let me tell you, you washing somebody up, and all of a sudden, some get.
You got explicit.
I'm saying washing. Baths, communal baths, washing.
Oh, that made my side hurt.
I'm just saying. Let's be real.
Okay. Yes.
Let's be real. Things happen.
Girl, have you seen him lately? But he fine. Yeah, girl, he fine. But have you seen the new concubine?
Drink a little wine.
You know what
get
I'm
a little twisted.
Well,
they had plenty of wine and stuff like that in those days.
Yep.
And all he did was, like, when he wanted one, they would go and bathe her.
Yeah.
Now, who's bathing her?
The servants.
Right. And the servants are like, okay.
Well, they didn't allow men in there because
only
they
the
couldn't trust. Yeah, because they couldn't. Well, weren't they like,
Yeah, they were castrated.
So
I heard one eunuch though. I was like, well, he wasn't castrated all the way then if he was.
Oh, well.
Anyway. I'm just saying.
How did we get here?
I don't know. We took a wrong turn.
Detour.
You asked me about my opinion.
I'm sorry.
That's my opinion. Concubines was concubining because was nobody paying attention to them.
But the servants were paying attention to them.
Well, I meant the king.
Yeah,
well, that's what I meant. You know, the rest of it left up to your imagination. And I hope I've given you something to think about.
Yeah. There's that.
What was the other thing? I think I don't remember what the other thing was now.
I'm still thinking about concubines. Okay.
I know you said Solomon.
Yeah.
I think about Solomon. It was something else. Oh well. It's down the rabbit hole now.
We've gone down the rabbit hole. That is true.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
If I have offended any of you, I apologize, but well.
I don't.
I mean,
need to think.
You do. You really
need
do.
To think. You know, because we read the Bible, and I know that I'm not making light or disrespecting the Bible because the Bible. But I was just looking at a show last night, and it was talking about the pieces of the Dead Sea Scrolls that they're just now able to use technology to read, and that they're able to scan and make sure that the texts match what's in the Bible. And some of it does match, but not word for word. And over time, we have to realize that the Bible, as wonderful as it is and the guideline as it is for things, we just simply can't take things literally without looking at context. And when you're not allowed to think freely about this book, you know, then you're stuck in the rigid. I know as a little kid, I read Solomon probably more than any other chapters because I was like, ooh, I felt like I was doing something, you know, like, ooh, this is the interesting part of the Bible, you know, because I wasn't allowed to read a lot of other things. So there was Bibles readily available everywhere. And as a child, it was like I liked reading about Solomon. And I liked reading Revelations because it just didn't make no sense. It was like reading sci-fi. So, you know, those two things interest me. But we've got to learn to be critical thinkers of the word.
You got to.
You got to.
Or you'll mess yourself up. And too many people have been messed up because they're around people who've taken that Bible literally. And listen, you really, honestly, you can't.
No, you can't.
Sorry.
That was funny. That was real good.
You got anything else?
I'm done.
So am I. So, once again, if you have anything you want us to talk about, please feel free to drop us a comment and let us know, and we'll do our best to research it and bring our opinion back on it. All right?
Yeah, I want to give a few shout outs.
Go ahead.
Always give a shout out to Chuck
Tackett.
Chuck Tackett. And if you are not listening to Chuck's chat or reading Chuck's chat from the KC Exposures, you are missing out because he's a treasure. And he always gives me, as the kids say, gives me life every time. Okay, Chuck pulls no punches. He tells it like it is. I also want to give a shout out to a few other friends of mine who I know are new and watching. Those that are LGBT allies, we appreciate you, you know, because we created this platform, yes, to address LGBT issues, but the message is broader, you know, and it's not just for LGBT listeners. And so when we have you guys listening, we appreciate you. I know I appreciate you.
Yep, I do.
And yeah, I just want to give those couple of shout outs to folks.
All righty then. Well, I'll give a shout out to my girls who watch at work.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support. Appreciate you. Emily dropped that comment.
That sounded very dumb.
That's what I am, baby. That's what I am. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate you. We about to shut it down. I'm Spiritual Studd.
And I am MT, baby.
And we're out of here. Peace.
Peace.